Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Time Travel. Now today we're going to be going back to the year 2003 and taking a look at Windows Mobile 2003 on this Siemens smartphone slash PDA that I recently picked up at a garage sale for $5. I kind of took a gamble on this device because the guy that was selling it didn't even think it was going to work. He had not used it in a number of years and he offered it to me for $5, and I pretty much took it, and it turns out that this thing works, which is pretty cool, and it is kind of the star, I guess, or the idea behind today's video. As this Pocket PC or smartphone or PDA, whatever that you want to call it, runs Windows Mobile 2003 Second Edition, and so we're going to go back and talk a little bit about Windows Mobile. First off, before we get into the hardware, I do want to get into the hardware and then kind of go back into the actual operating system on this, but I do want to give a brief little history about Windows Mobile. If you don't know, Windows Mobile actually started way back, the whole project actually started way back in 1992, and I did a video on this a number of years ago on the WinPad Alpha SDK. And that was pretty much the first version of Windows that was actually intended to run on a mobile type device, whether it be a phone or a tablet-like device. That was pretty much the origin of Windows Mobile. It then evolved into Windows CE, and then Windows Mobile, and then now Windows Phone 8, and I believe Windows Phone 10 has obviously succeeded Windows Mobile. So specifically Windows Mobile 2003, the first edition was released on June 23rd, 2003, and this was the first release that was called Windows Mobile, that was actually referred to by Microsoft and marketed as Windows Mobile. Previous versions were called Pocket PC. I believe the version before this was Pocket PC 2000. It was not called Windows Mobile or anything like that. It was its whole separate thing. So what was new in Windows Mobile 2003 First Edition? Well, there was a couple of new things. There was improved Bluetooth functionality over previous versions of Pocket PC. And in 2003, in Windows Mobile 2003, you actually had the ability to send files over Bluetooth and use Bluetooth-based accessories like a keyboard or a Bluetooth headset for talking on the phone. And there were a couple of new applications. There was a new game called Jawbreaker and a new Pictures application as well. There were some also minor improvements to Pocket Outlook, which supported the vCard and vCal file formats. So Windows Mobile 2003 Second Edition, which is what this Pocket PC right here is running, was released about a year later in March 2004, and it also included some minor improvements over that of Windows Mobile 2003 First Edition. This version allows the screen orientation to be changed, which we will take a look shortly in the software right here. There's some more screen resolutions that were supported, and one of the big things, it supported the WPA protocol for wireless. This is actually one of the first Pocket PCs to support Wi-Fi, this device right here. And there were also some minor updates to Pocket Internet Explorer. Now, Windows Mobile 2003 Second Edition was the last version of Windows Mobile to support a technology called ActiveSync by Microsoft, which would later be rebranded into a whole different service in Windows Vista. And this was also the last version of Windows Mobile to use the year of its release in its name. So all previous versions to this were, named after the year that they were, released. And future versions, starting with Windows Mobile 5.0, would use the version number. So we had 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, and then we went over to Windows Phone 8, and now Windows Phone 10. So now let's talk a little bit about this device itself. So if you're not aware, this is a Siemens SX66 smartphone slash PDA slash Pocket PC. You'll hear those three terms probably used interchangeably throughout this video, as a lot of people, even back in 2004, were calling this a smartphone, and some people were calling it a Pocket PC, as that term was still being used. So this is actually the GSM version of another device which is pretty similar in design to this. It's actually almost exactly the same. It's called the AudioVox PPC 6601, which sounds like a long, boring, drawn-out name, but it's essentially the same phone as this one. They were both manufactured by the same company. I believe HTC owns or bought out both of these companies. So they basically manufactured these under two different names for whatever reason. And the AudioVox was actually released a couple months earlier in 2004, and it was exclusive to the Sprint network. This one right here, as you can see, is exclusive to the Singular network with that little logo up there. Singular ultimately became the AT&T network in 2006 or 7, I believe. And this device, when it was released in 2004, was actually one of the last Windows Mobile 2003 second edition devices. Again, very long name. But that was because it was actually released at the end of 2004, and Windows Mobile 5.0 was on the horizon to be released in 2005. So this was one of the last products that ran Windows Mobile 2003 SE. And at the time, this sold for $550 with a 2-year Singular contract. You were basically locked into the Singular network for 2 years, and you had to pay a monthly subscription fee for your phone. Now, nowadays, $550 for a phone around that price range will usually get you an unlocked phone. I believe the iPhone costs around $600 to $700 unlocked, meaning that you can use it on any carrier. You're not tied in to a 2-year agreement. This was not the case back then with this phone. It cost $550, and then you had to pay a monthly subscription fee on top of that. All right, so now we're going to talk about the raw specs of this device, I guess you could say, sort of like the CPU and the RAM and all that kind of stuff. So for a CPU, this device right here had an Intel X-Scale, which is an ARM-based processor, clocked at 520 megahertz. It had 120 megabytes of RAM, and it had a 1,470 milliamp hour battery, which would get you approximately 8 days of standby time, so when the device is not on, and it would get you up to 4 hours of talk time. This was also, as I mentioned earlier, one of the first devices in its class, I guess you could say, to feature 802.11b Wi-Fi with the WA protocol support. Now, this was something interestingly enough that the CDMA version did not have. Now, this probably was because it was released earlier than the Siemens one right here. But the AudioVox version did not support Wi-Fi at all. Another feature that it did not support was the fact that the GSM one here is a world phone, and the AudioVox CDMA one was not. So now we're just going to kind of go around this device and talk some more about the hardware features, kind of like all the ports and all the buttons on this device. So on the top right here, you see we have the power button, an SD card slot right there, which just has the little SD card protector thing. And I assume you would use this for transferring files over to this Pocket PC. We've also got your headphone jack right here. Moving to the front here, we have a button, a couple buttons up here. This one is actually for accessing your contacts with that little logo there, and this one over here is for accessing your calendar, so you can just press this button and you get instant access to these two applications. We've also got your speaker right here, which you would actually use to put this up to your ear and talk on it like a phone. We've also got right here your 3.5-inch 240 by 320 display. So this display is touchscreen, however, it was intended to be used with a stylus, which, as you can see, that would go right in this little slot right here, is where the stylus would go. It did not come with one, unfortunately, so I just have to use my finger, which works perfectly fine, although it's not as precise as a stylus would be. Now you may notice the screen is a little bit damaged right here. There's actually a part of the screen, it's, this like little line up here in this whole top corner does not actually work properly. So that's going to be something kind of annoying that I know you guys probably aren't really going to like, as when we're actually taking a look at the software on this, it's going to be a little bit hard to see this little corner up here. But it's pretty much what we're going to have to work with for this video. On the bottom here, you've got 4 more shortcut buttons. You've got one which is the start key. You've got a button for your email client. We've got a button for Internet Explorer and an OK button. On the bottom here, we've got your pickup and decline call buttons, and we've also got your navigation pad right there. Now these 2 buttons right here do illuminate green for this one and red for this one, like on a normal phone. One of the other cool features about this is it does have a full slide out QWERTY keyboard, as you can see right there. I was looking online and I was actually able to find a couple of reviews from this device from this time, and we'll get into more of that later. But a lot of them complain about this keyboard, calling it crammed. It is very crammed. These buttons are kind of small. But for this time, this was pretty cool. It was actually, according to some of these reviews, it was actually a whole new concept. This apparently was not done before, so that's pretty interesting as well. So we're just going to close that back up. That keyboard does also illuminate as well, which is pretty cool. Moving to the bottom here, we've got your port for charging and syncing, which you can use with this dock right here, as I was using for the first portion of this video, which I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes here. And we've also got a reset button right there, which you just kind of put like a pen tip into, and it resets all the data on this device. If you move to the left side here, you've got a couple more application shortcut buttons. You've got a volume, I guess you could say rocker or a volume slider. It's kind of one where you move it up and it just kind of resets back into the center position. And we've also got your IR blaster right here, which we use for sending and receiving files over Bluetooth. If we move to the back, you see we've got the Design for Windows Mobile logo up here. And we've also got your 1,470 milliamp hour battery. If I take this out here, we've also got your singular SIM card or smart chip. It's actually called a 64K smart chip right there, as you can see. So this was used on the Singular network. This battery right here, as you can see, is a 1,490 milliamp hour battery. I guess I had 70 written down. So this would give you, as I said, about up to 8 hours of, or 8 days of standby time, and 4 hours of talk time on this battery right here. One of the other cool things about this dock right here is you can actually charge the PDA itself, in this little cradle right here, if it'll dock. So we've got that for charging and syncing to your computer. It's just a regular USB tip on the other end. But we've also got this little portion back here, which you can actually use to plug a whole external battery into and charge it at the same time as you would charge this device, which is pretty cool and definitely useful for those people who needed more than 4 hours of talk time. You could kind of just carry around a whole separate battery with you, which is pretty nice. I'm not sure how much that an extra battery cost at this time, but I'm sure that they were being sold for this specific purpose, as this is pretty much designed for that. So another thing that I want to talk about is the reception of this device, or kind of what people thought of it back in 2004 and 2005 when they were when this device came out, when people were actually reviewing it. As I mentioned before, I was actually able to find 2 different reviews from this time. One of them was from CNET, and the other one was from PC Mag. And I'll have both of these articles linked down below. They were written in 2005, and CNET gave this device a 3 out of 5 overall score, and PC Mag gave it a 4 out of 5. So PC Mag kind of thought it was a little bit better than CNET did. But CNET complained about how, that this device did not have no, quote, high-speed edge network support, which is kind of something that, a lot of you guys will, probably laugh at now. But back in this time, the edge network was kind of slowly being rolled out, and this device, unfortunately, did not feature that. So you were not going to be using those fast edge speeds, which, again, some of you may laugh at that, but, back in this time, edge was pretty, or at least it was considered to be like a high-speed network. They also complained about the crammed keyboard, like I was talking about. They said that the keyboard was crammed, and they were also not really pleased with the singular service that you had on this device. I was actually reading they apparently tested it in 3 different cities, and it all kind of had, all those cities kind of had the same result. It would work for part of the time, and part of the time it would not work at all, and you could not get online with this or place calls. And that was one of the things that that they complained about. Both reviews, both of these CNET and PC Mag reviews, called it big and heavy, which obviously, yes, this device, it is, very thick. Nowadays, this is definitely considered to be a, heavy smartphone. But even back in 2005, you can see people calling it that, which is pretty interesting. All right, so now we're going to be moving on to taking a look at Windows Mobile 2003 in action on this Siemens PDA right here. I'm going to kind of, take you through this OS and show you, some of the programs that would be bundled on here. So when you first boot up the PDA, this is the screen that you're going to be presented with. It's kind of the main, I think it's called the Today screen. You've got the date right there on the top. You've got owner information. If you had any unread messages, they would show here. You've got a task list, and you've got your appointments from your calendar. Now, yeah, you can see this is that little screen problem that I was talking about. This whole part up here is just basically broken. I believe like it was smashed or something. That's probably what, you know, like why this is here. You can see that it's a little bit cracked. You can probably see those faint cracks in there. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. It is kind of annoying because you can't see like all of this information, but we're gonna have to just, you know, make do with it for this video. Also on the bottom right here, if I just kind of go down to that, we've got Get Express Mail, which is a singular program that they kind of wanted you to get. So along the bottom here, if I can just briefly show you, yeah, we've got this button right here, opens up the start menu, as you can see right there. And if we like actually navigate down through this, you've got a bunch of different programs. And you can actually change what programs appear up in this list right here. And it would also show your recently used programs where that recent programs thing is. And then at the bottom, you've got access to even more programs. Let me just bring that back up. You've got access to even more programs right here. You've got access to settings and a help menu. So that's what that button does right there. You know, probably going to be very commonly used. You've also got shortcuts to Outlook Express, which apparently brings up this. So I guess you did have to install this. And then Internet Explorer, which is, you know, already open. But if I get out of this and open up Internet Explorer, you can see that there. So it's actually called Pocket Internet Explorer. A lot of the programs in here were called, like, would use the Pocket prefix before the actual program name. So you had Pocket Internet Explorer, Pocket Excel, Pocket Word, Pocket Outlook, all that kind of stuff. So, and then the last one right here is the OK button, which basically will I found like if you're in any sort of menu, you press that, it'll bring you back to what you were doing before. So in that, you know, I had Internet Explorer open, I pressed the OK button, it brings me back to the home screen. And you can see that right here, you've got your pickup call and decline call buttons are illuminated green and red. And then we've also got, as I was mentioning before, the slide out keyboard. And if I press a button right here, you can see that yes, it actually does illuminate with a blue backlight, which is pretty nice. Now, yeah, a lot of people complain from this time that this is a very crammed keyboard, and I can definitely see why, because yeah, it is, you know, sort of crammed in here, but it you know, does work. It gets the job done. You know, to use a actual physical keyboard. These buttons right here, the 9 that are illuminated in red, or actually the 10 that are illuminated in red, or not illuminated, but just colored red. These are actually used for the sort of number pad. As obviously, you know, there's not like a whole actual full-size number pad on here. These keys double as the number keys, and also you can use these in the dialer. So if I start dialing here and get out of that because something's open, if I start dialing here, it will actually bring up the phone application. So, you know, I can just dial there or use the on-screen buttons as well to, you know, dial. Obviously, the phone on here is not going to work because there's not a valid SIM card in here. The SIM card in here cannot be used anymore. So if I press talk, it just won't do anything. So that's basically the phone dialer. I guess, you know, that was a pretty nice segue into that. So we'll press OK and get out of this. So we're just going to kind of, I'm not going to go through every single one of these applications. I know that I always say that and I usually end up doing so, but I'm going to try to, because, you know, I could go through every single application, but a lot of these are going to be pretty self-explanatory. But I do want to focus on more of like the actual Pocket-based applications like Word and Excel, like you'll see on here. And so let's just kind of go through. We'll start out with ActiveSync. I guess I can show you what this looks like. You know, pretty self-explanatory. This is what you would use with the ActiveSync client on your computer to you know, when you would dock it right here, it would automatically be able to sync like your contacts, calendar, and email data from your computer to this smartphone / PDA, Pocket PC, whatever that you want to call it. A lot of these Pocket PCs from this time did something like this. Palm had this, where everything was called hot sync. You could like have the Palm dock plug into your computer, and when you dock it, it would automatically bring up hot sync on the computer, and it would you know, basically do the same thing. So that's ActiveSync. You've got Calendar, which is, you know, pretty self-explanatory as well. It's a calendar. Contacts is your contact list. You've got Pocket Internet Explorer, which I've already shown you. And I'm going to actually connect this thing to the internet. I can show you that you can actually get online with this, which is pretty cool. You've got your messaging client and your phone dialer, which we just took a look at. As I said, all your recent programs would show up right there. And then you've got a program shortcut right here, which brings up all the programs on the device. And obviously, you can add more through the use of either like this dock through the USB connection, or you can use this SD card up here to store data as well. So we've got games. This is the Jawbreaker game that was included with Windows Mobile 2003. We've also got a we've also got a mini solitaire, but for some reason I got out of that by accident. So we've got a mini solitaire program right here, which looks kind of similar to the one that would be on the full-size Windows. If I press OK, you'll see it'll go back to this menu, and we've got Jawbreaker. So this is one of these kind of games. I'm sure most of you guys have seen something like this before. You just kind of have to get all these jewels off of your screen. So pretty good game for something like this. For a device like this. We'll get out of that. We've got Album up here, which is for like your photo album, and all your photos would be stored in there. That is the Bluetooth manager. I know you can't really see that, but this would be used. You can actually, and I can probably bring up my phone here, because it is going to actually try to find Bluetooth devices. So if I bring up my phone and let's go in here to Bluetooth and turn it on, so it's discovering. So if I change this to all devices, you can see the little Bluetooth icon is animating there, and there you go. There's my iPhone right there. So that is pretty cool that it's able to find that. Obviously, my iPhone uses a much newer version of Bluetooth than this does, but yeah, you can see that it's not gonna actually be able to actually work with this. My phone doesn't even show. If I'm going into Bluetooth there, it just says that it's searching for other devices and it's not actually finding anything. So, but that is pretty neat that actually was so able to find my phone on there. Obviously, like I said, it's not going to work because I chose for a hands-free headset, and obviously my phone is not a hands-free headset, but it'll still find it, which is cool. So we'll get out of that and go back into. So you can see here that it's already starting to create a list of my most recent applications. So that's basically what that will do, which is, of course, just kind of like the start menu on Windows, at least before Windows 8 and Windows 10. These, the whole start menu would, pretty much do that. You've got a calculator, an enroller, and you can see this is what the on-screen keyboard looks like if you wanted to use this, or you can just kind of move up to this keyboard. We've got a file explorer, which is actually kind of funny because the Windows Explorer on Windows 10 is now called the File Explorer, and before that it was called Windows Explorer. So that's kind of interesting. I guess this is kind of where it got its name at first, but you can see that we've got, this just basically lets you browse the file system on your device. So, you can go in and view all these folders. There's actually some files on here that, it looks like the previous owner had, and you can see they were last modified in 03, 04. I don't know if it actually, let's see if it will let you browse my device. So yeah, this is kind of like the core files, and you've got the Windows folder, which it might not let you access. Oh yeah, it will. So you can go in here. This is the Windows folder, all of the critical files for the operating system. You can go back to that, to my device. Obviously, it's not going to be called my computer. So here's a bitmap that I opened up. So let's get out of that. Go back into File Explorer. So pretty self-explanatory. It's a File Explorer. It browses files, and you can see that it starts to add even more. I think that this whole list will just keep adding programs until it goes off the screen. You can see right there, it can probably fit one more program in that recent programs list. We've got Find, which is obviously going to be pretty similar to the Windows Search. We've got a MIDI manager, MSN Messenger, because yes, that was still used when this device was released. We've got a notes application, photo contacts, pictures, and these are the applications that I kind of want to get into. We've got Microsoft Excel or Pocket Excel, Pocket MSN, and Pocket Word. So let's just launch Pocket Word here. Obviously it's just going to be kind of like Microsoft Word. There is actually a spell check in here, which is pretty cool. So I can just start typing. Let's just get out of that. And it also, as you may have seen, it has predictive text support. So if I start typing, it'll show up with the word that it thinks would go next in the sentence, and I think you just press enter. Whoops, it went away. I think you just gotta tap it. Yeah, so you would that would be kind of annoying. I don't think there's a way on the keyboard to do that. And you've got like autocorrect and all that. There's also a spell check program on here. If I go in Tools, You've got spell check right there, and it would run through and do a spelling and grammar check. Obviously the full-size version of Microsoft Word has that, so again, pretty cool how that works. Pocket Excel is going to be kind of the same thing. You can view your Excel spreadsheets on here, and I think the idea for these two kind of programs is, if you had like a big Excel file or a big Word file from your main computer on the full desktop applications, you could kind of put them in here and kind of do like very minimal edits to them, like in case something was wrong on this spreadsheet, you could kind of correct that here. And same with Word. It's not really like intended to write like a whole 5-paragraph essay on Pocket Word, or make like a whole business spreadsheet on Pocket Excel. It's not really designed to do that, but it's still cool that it's in here because I can definitely see that being used. So we're going to go back to programs here. Pocket MSN, pretty self-explanatory as well. It's going to be, if you were subscribed to MSN, you could use all these services here in a, quick little application. You've got your SIM Manager, Tasks, which is going to kind of be similar to any sort of task program, Terminal Services Client, Windows Media Player. We'll go ahead and launch that. This is Windows Media Player 9, actually, or at least it's based off of Windows Media Player 9. So I was trying to get this thing to connect to the internet, and you can see it's not really wanting to work today, which is kind of annoying. I think it's still trying to use the Singular network to connect, which obviously is not going to work out. So let's go back into settings right here. So this is in this settings menu is kind of where all of your device settings will be contained. So we've got options for the buttons, the input methods. This one right here, I think, is menus. This is where you can actually choose what programs will show up in the start menu right here. So if I want to have games to show up, I just press on the check mark. It's going to give me an error saying only 7 programs are allowed. So if I uncheck, say, contacts and check games, and now games will show up right there, as you can see right under today. So that's pretty neat. You can only have up to 7 programs pinned up here, and then you have your recent ones right here. So you basically just want to choose whatever are the most commonly used programs that you use. So say that you didn't use Calendar at all, or you didn't use Internet Explorer, you could take those off and put like the games or the File Explorer on there, which is cool. If you go under System, you can go in here and just, these are more settings for your system. The About one will actually tell you the processor and memory information. So this is Windows Mobile 2003 2nd edition. As you can see right there, it's got that Intel PXA 263, which is the ARM-based processor. It's got 125 megs of RAM, which is, it's going to be, or it is actually physically 128, but it's only utilizing the 125. We've got your device ID, which would be, if you were to actually connect to a network, this was what the name would be. We've got copyrights, which is all the copyright legal stuff. You've got options to add ringtones, backup, your button lock, certifications, clocks and alarms, device information. This is where it would show even more information about all of the software and ROM versions in here. You've got hardware, which again shows more information about your CPU and RAM. You see it's 128 here. And then we've got call duration, which shows apparently somebody was really using this thing back in 2004. So we've got options for your keyboard, your memory, your microphone, and permanent save, power, regional. You can actually remove programs from the device, which is just going to be the Singular Get Express Mail, because that's the only program, the third-party installed program, even though it did come with the device. So I guess that those other 2 programs I was talking about did actually come with the device. We've got screen settings, which is where you can change the orientation, which is a new feature in 2nd edition. This was not in 1st edition. So I can go in here, and if I want it to be landscape, then the whole device will just turn to landscape. If you were right-handed, there's one for left-handed, which will turn it this way. So this is definitely useful for this whole situation here, because if we want to see what's up here, which now we can see that. So this is what I guess you could say status bar, you could call this. This is all of the icons that show up here. We've got your volume settings, the time. Now if I move this little volume slider up here, you can see that the volume will actually change and make a little sound as I'm changing it. So that's kind of what that's used for. And you've got 2 different volume sliders. You've got one for the device itself and one for call volume. And then you have some options down there that I can't see. This is what the calendar looks like. It's just, just decided to open up, which is pretty interesting. We'll go back into screen because I want to change this back to portrait so I can actually like see the thing. So there we go. So that's pretty much all your options in here, and then we've got obviously all of your connection options right here. You could add like a network card to this. You've got your Bluetooth and beaming options right there. So again, pretty self-explanatory. Most of the programs on here, I did just kind of want to touch on those Pocket, Word, and Excel programs, and just kind of show you, I guess, kind of how this operating system works. It's definitely a pretty cool little operating system. Obviously, looking back on this does not really compare to the mobile operating systems that we have today, but this was pretty cool, and this was coming from Microsoft, so it obviously was going to work with Windows very well. Windows was still obviously the most popular operating system. So if you had a Windows computer, which chances are, unless you're using a Mac, you did, this would pretty much work in your little device ecosystem. I believe in the Palm M515 video that I did, which was another episode of Time Travel, I said that that device and this device right here is pretty much essential to managing your sort of digital life on the go, and that's kind of what these devices were created to do, and they did them very well because they sold very well. They were very successful. Microsoft kept pushing out updates for Windows Mobile and ultimately became Windows Phone. So yeah, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry for the sort of poor camera work for this portion of the video, because this camera, as I said, does have some problems with like managing low light, and it kind of has, for whatever reason, it had trouble wanting to capture the screen. It was always too bright for it, so I kind of had to just kind of set it up the best that I could, and this is just the best that I could do. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.